Disney's $1 billion investment in OpenAI and its move to let fans make AI videos with its characters, opening the door for other studios to consider similar deals or risk potentially falling behind. Here's Disney's CEO Bob Iger on CNBC with David Faber yesterday.
We've been extremely impressed with OpenAI's growth and what Sam and his team have been able to achieve. And of course, on top of that was their appreciation for our content and their willingness to license it and their willingness to help us protect it and to protect value. So we're very excited about what we see. We also think there are great opportunities for our company to license other product from OpenAI to make our company more efficient, to grow the top line, to essentially accomplish a lot of what we feel we need to accomplish in the years ahead.
And joining us right now is Cynthia Littleton, Variety's co-editor-in-chief. Good morning to you, Cynthia. How is Hollywood taking this, and what does it portend, and not just for other IP characters, but how is the creative community, actors, and everybody else thinking about it?
Well, I will tell you that this is the first thing that got people not talking about Warner Brothers and Netflix and Paramount and HBO. So it did rise to the level of it's something that people were definitely talking about. I made some rounds last night, and people were definitely kind of trying to, is this a good thing? I think people at other studios and in the creative community are still trying to evaluate sort of what Disney's motivations here are. But it has definitely had a big impact in Hollywood, where it's been a very tough season, and any potential source of revenue and profits is going to be eagerly investigated by anyone. And Disney, no surprise, it feels like they're making a market leader move here.
Do you have any sense of what kind of revenue this is ultimately going to look like? I mean, and how much of it really drops to the bottom line? Also, how long term this kind of money really is?
In a word, no. I have to be honest with you, unpacking the financials of how this is going to work. Is it a pay per character, pay per use, how they're going to track all of that? I have to admit that is what we're pursuing and trying to figure out what the economics of this are, because it's very clear that this would seem to be Disney trying to set a floor, Disney's trying to set some parameters for the use of their content in this sort of new medium, with the new AI tools that you can make all kinds of things. They're even they've even committed to putting some user created shorts to screen on Disney Plus to be available for streaming. So it seems like they're really trying to embrace this as a new medium that could have creative potential. But this deal, which I'm sure has all kinds of interesting parameters, could potentially be a template for others. But I did not hear, oh my God, we've got to get and do our own deal. I think a lot of other Hollywood is going to take a wait and see as to see how this plays out for Disney.
Well, let me ask you about that, and let me show you another clip from that interview, Sam Altman talking about trying to make this deal and how important it was for them.
We always have wanted to respect IP. When we launched Sora initially, we had a lot of blocks in place, but we knew that if there was one company that we wanted to start partnering with, Disney was the obvious one. And so we have had a long discussion going with Disney, and we found them to be a sort of open-minded partner as this technology has evolved. And it was very clear to us that we really wanted to find a deal to do here.
So, Cynthia, I think the question is, what do other studios do? Also, is there going to be a battle? Is Google, for example, and Gemini, are they going to try to take out the IP of another company? And does there become an arms race for this IP, and therefore how much value can ultimately be extracted? It sounds like Disney just did this deal on an exclusive basis, and that's the other question. How exclusive are these things, for now, and what does that look like longer term?
Well, and I think you got to think about all of this in the context of litigation that is already existing. Disney and Universal are suing an AI firm, not nearly as large as OpenAI, but there's a lot of existing litigation out there, and how this plays into that will be very interesting. I think in terms of what Disney wants to get out of this, I really feel like it's setting a floor and setting some parameters. One aspect that was raised to me by somebody at another studio is the sort of, even the images that you're showing right now, like where is the line between what is an actual authentic clip from a Disney movie or a Disney TV show, and when the user generated, generative AI user created content gets out there in the internet and on TikTok, how are you gonna untangle what is the quote, what is the authorized legitimate clip from a movie or
Right.
TV show from what's out there? When you start unpacking this, the mind reels as to the potential in terms of the financial, and there is a sense that there's a gold rush out there for content creators. We're hearing, people with much smaller libraries are, getting offers to license content for tens of millions of dollars. But I think there has to be a note of caution here about whether this is whether are we in an AI bubble, and will this pay off? I think Disney's $1 billion investment in OpenAI is also that's a bet on the future. So interesting to see how this all plays out.
Hey, Cynthia, let me throw other one at you. And I heard this last night from an actor who was asking me the question. I did not know the answer. There are certain characters like Darth Vader, for example, that clearly, there's an actor underneath the costume, but that's clearly the IP, if you will, of Disney. Is it more complicated to think about, Harrison Ford playing Indiana Jones and what that, maybe the hat is Disney's, but is the character itself, should he be able to participate in that in some way? If you're thinking about Pirates of the Caribbean, that obviously is IP that's Disney, but Johnny Depp played that role, and where does he, does he capture any of it if somebody's going to be putting themselves into the role that he played as the captain? Do you see what I'm saying?
I totally do. And Disney had a long list of characters that will be licensed for this. And most of them, maybe not all of them, but the vast majority of them were animated for that exact reason. The Writers Guild of America was quick to come out and basically say that this is a form of copyright theft for their members, for their creations. So yeah, that is a whole other avenue of potential. That's a whole other avenue that the industry is going to have to step by step and perhaps legal case by legal case figure out what the parameters of that are. There have been in recent months a lot of activity at the state level about name and likeness usage, especially for dead celebrities, but for living celebrities. In New York and LA, obviously big creative hubs, there has been a lot of activity at the state level to get tougher legislation around just the ability for any AI firm to do exactly that, to take an Indiana Jones image with Harrison Ford's face and allow people to manipulate it. Very much so.